The drill bit screamed as it cut through the crystal formations deep beneath Kepler 442b's surface. Dr. Marcus. Webb wiped sweat from his forehead and checked the readouts on his scanner. After 3 months of digging in this remote corner of the mining colony, they had found nothing but more purple crystals and empty rock. "Doc, you might want to see this," called Lisa Park from across the excavation pit. The young engineer was staring at her equipment with a confused expression. "I'm getting some weird readings down here." Webb climbed down the rocky slope to where Lisa stood. Her ground-penetrating radar showed something large buried about 50 feet below them. The shape on the screen didn't look like a natural formation. It was too smooth, too regular. "What do you think it is?" Lisa asked, pointing at the strange outline on her display. "Could be an old mining platform," Webb said, though he didn't sound convinced. "Or maybe some kind of geological formation we haven't seen before." Greg Hayes, their communications specialist, looked up from his own equipment. "Whatever it is, it's big. Really big. This thing is at least 300 feet long." Captain Jake Morrison, the security officer assigned to their team, walked over to join them. "Is it dangerous? Should we report this to Colonial Command?" Webb studied the readings more carefully. Something about the buried object bothered him. In 20 years of digging up alien ruins across the galaxy, he had developed a sense for when something was important. This felt important. "Let's dig down and take a look first," he decided. "If it's just old mining equipment, we don't want to waste the colonial authorities' time." The team spent the next week carefully excavating around the buried object. As they dug deeper, Webb's excitement grew. The thing wasn't made of metal or plastic like human technology. It wasn't made of the living crystal that the Valdari used, or the bioorganic materials favored by the Zephyrians. This was something else entirely. When they finally cleared enough dirt and rock to see part of the object's surface, Webb's breath caught in his throat. The hull was smooth and dark, with a surface that seemed to shift color as the light hit it from different angles. Strange symbols were carved into the metal, symbols unlike anything in the known galactic databases. "This isn't human," Lisa whispered, running her hand along the strange surface. "And it's not like any alien tech I've ever seen." Greg was scanning the symbols with his computer, trying to match them to known languages. Nothing in the database. "These markings don't match any known species." Webb knelt down and examined the hull more closely. The metal felt warm under his fingers, which was strange because the temperature this deep underground should have been much cooler. As he traced one of the symbols with his finger, he could have sworn he felt a slight vibration, like a heartbeat. "Captain Morrison," he called, "we need to expand the dig site. I want to see more of this thing." Morrison nodded and called for additional equipment. Within days, they had brought in heavy excavation gear and more workers. As they dug, the true size of the buried object became clear. It was a ship, and it was enormous. The vessel was sleek and graceful, nothing like the blocky human starships or the angular Zephyrian craft. It looked more like a work of art than a piece of technology. The hull curved in flowing lines that seemed to follow some mathematical principle that Webb couldn't identify. "How long has this been down here?" Lisa asked as they stood on the edge of the excavation pit. Looking down at the partially uncovered ship, Webb consulted his geological scanner. "The rock layers suggest it's been buried for at least 10,000 years, maybe longer." 10,000 years, Greg repeated. "That's older than any known civilization in this sector." As the excavation continued, Webb found himself drawn to the ship during his off hours. He would stand at the edge of the pit and stare down at the strange vessel, feeling like it was somehow calling to him. The other team members began to notice his obsession. "Doc, you've been down there for 6 hours, Lisa said one evening, finding him sitting on a rock beside the ship's hull. "You should get some rest." "There's something about this ship," Webb said without looking up. "Something important." I can feel it. Lisa sat down beside him. What do you mean, you can feel it? Webb was quiet for a long moment. When I touch the hull, I can feel a vibration, like the ship is alive somehow. And these symbols ... He pointed to the carved markings. Sometimes I think I almost understand what they mean. That's impossible. Lisa said gently, You're probably just tired. We've all been working too hard. But Webb knew it wasn't exhaustion. The ship was doing something to him, changing him in ways he didn't understand. When he dreamed at night, he saw stars and planets he had never visited. He heard voices speaking in languages that didn't exist. The breakthrough came during the 3rd week of excavation. The team had uncovered what appeared to be an entrance to the ship, though it was sealed shut. Webb was examining the door when Morrison approached with a worried expression. Doc, we just got a message from Colonial Command. They want a full report on what we've found down here. Webb looked up from the sealed entrance. What did you tell them? Nothing yet. But our supply requests have been raising questions. They know we've found something big. Webb made a decision that would change everything. Don't report it yet. Give me 1 more week. If this ship is what I think it is, the Colonial Authority will take it away from us before we can properly study it. Morrison looked uncomfortable. I don't know, Doc. Going against direct orders ... 1 week, Webb repeated. Please. That night, Webb returned to the ship alone. He had been carrying a small piece of the strange metal in his pocket, a fragment that had broken off during the excavation. As he approached the sealed entrance, the fragment in his pocket began to grow warm. When he placed his hand on the ship's door, something extraordinary happened. The symbols along the hull began to glow with a soft blue light. The metal under his palm felt warm and alive, pulsing like a heartbeat. And then, to his amazement, the door began to open. The entrance slid apart silently, revealing a corridor that glowed with the same blue light as the symbols. Webb stepped inside, his heart pounding with excitement and fear. The air inside the ship was fresh and clean, as if the vessel had been sealed only yesterday instead of thousands of years ago. The corridor led to other passages, all glowing with that strange blue light. The walls were smooth and curved, with more of the mysterious symbols carved into their surfaces. As Webb walked deeper into the ship, he felt a presence watching him, evaluating him. He reached what appeared to be the ship's central chamber, a large room with a raised platform in the center. The moment he stepped onto the platform, the entire ship came alive around him. Lights flickered on throughout the vessel, and a low humming sound filled the air. Webb felt something touch his mind, a gentle presence that seemed ancient and wise. Images flashed through his thoughts. Distant stars, alien worlds, civilizations that had risen and fallen long before humans had learned to make fire. And through it all, a sense of waiting, of patience that had lasted for countless ages. Ship had been waiting for him. Not for any human, but specifically for him. Webb didn't understand how or why, but he knew with absolute certainty that this moment had been planned long before he was born. As he stood in the glowing chamber, feeling the ship's consciousness touch his mind, Webb realized that his life had just changed forever. Whatever this vessel was, wherever it had come from, it had chosen him. And tomorrow, when the others discovered what had happened, nothing would ever be the same again. Webb stood in the glowing chamber for hours, feeling the ship's presence in his mind. The ancient consciousness didn't speak to him with words. Instead, it shared feelings and images that filled his thoughts with wonder and fear. He saw the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, when the first intelligent beings had looked up at the stars and dreamed of traveling between them. He watched civilizations rise and fall like waves on a beach. And through it all, he felt the patience of the beings who had built this ship, waiting for the right moment to return. When Webb finally left the ship, dawn was breaking over the excavation site. He felt different, changed in ways he couldn't explain. His mind was sharper, his senses more acute. He could hear conversations from across the camp and see details in the distance that should have been invisible. "Doc, where have you been?" Lisa asked when she saw him climbing out of the pit. "I've been looking for you all night." Webb looked at her and realized he could sense her emotions. She was worried about him, but also excited about something else. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Colonial Command sent a priority message. They're sending a fleet to investigate our discovery. Admiral Sterling herself is coming." Lisa's expression was troubled. "They want us to stop all excavation until they arrive." Webb felt a chill run down his spine. Admiral Patricia Sterling was known throughout the colony worlds as a hard woman who saw alien technology as either a weapon to be used or a threat to be destroyed. If she took control of the ship, she would never understand what it really was. "When will they arrive?" Webb asked. 3 days, Lisa replied. "Maybe less if they push their engines hard." Webb nodded and walked toward his quarters, but his mind was racing. The ship had waited thousands of years for him to find it. He couldn't let the military take it away before he understood what it wanted from him. That evening, Webb gathered his team around the campfire. Greg was monitoring communications traffic, Morrison was cleaning his weapons, and Lisa was studying the geological data they had collected. "I need to tell you all something," Webb began. "Last night, I went inside the ship." Morrison looked up sharply. "You did what?" "Doc, that could have been dangerous. We don't know anything about alien technology." "The ship isn't dangerous," Webb said. "At least not to us. It's been waiting for someone to find it. Someone like me." "What do you mean, someone like you?" Lisa asked. Webb struggled to find the right words. "The beings who built this ship, they're called the Precursors. They lived in our galaxy long before any of the current species evolved. They seeded worlds with life and watched over the younger races as they developed." Greg stopped working on his equipment and stared at Webb. "How do you know all this?" "The ship told me," Webb said simply. "Not with words, but with images and feelings. It shared its memories with me." Morrison stood up and paced around the fire. "This is crazy. You're talking about some kind of mind control." "Alien influence. It's not control," Webb protested. "It's communication. The ship has been alone for so long, waiting for someone who could understand its purpose." "And what is its purpose?" Lisa asked quietly. Webb looked into the flames of the campfire. "To find a species worthy of inheriting the Precursors' legacy. A species that could continue their work of protecting and guiding younger civilizations." "And it thinks humans are that species?" Greg asked. "It thinks I might be," Webb corrected. "But the choice is mine to make. The ship won't force anything on me." Lisa leaned forward. "What kind of choice?" Webb was quiet for a long moment. "To become something more than human. To bond with the ship and become its pilot, its partner. To help it wake up other precursor technology that's been sleeping throughout the galaxy." Morrison stopped pacing and looked at Webb with concern. "Doc, I've seen what alien technology can do to people. I've seen colonists turned into mindless drones by Zephyrian biotech. I've watched good soldiers lose their humanity to Valdari crystal implants." "This is different," Webb insisted. "The Precursors aren't trying to conquer or control. They're trying to protect." "Protect from what?" Lisa asked. Webb felt a chill as the ship's memories surfaced in his mind. "From something that's coming. Something that destroys entire star systems. The Precursors built their network to prepare for its return." The team sat in stunned silence around the fire. Finally, Greg spoke up. "When is this thing supposed to arrive?" "I don't know," Webb admitted. "The ship's memories are vast, and I can only understand small pieces at a time. But I know it's real, and I know we're not ready for it." Morrison sat back down and stared at Webb. "So what do you want to do? Hide from the Admiral? Steal alien technology?" "I want to understand what the ship is offering before the military Takes it away, Webb said. Once Admiral Sterling arrives, we'll lose any chance to learn the truth. Lisa looked troubled. If you're right about this threat, shouldn't we tell the Colonial Authority? Let them decide what to do. Would they believe? You have? Webb asked. Would they trust alien technology, even if it was trying to help? Probably not, Morrison admitted reluctantly. The military sees aliens as enemies first, allies second. Webb stood up and looked toward the excavation pit. I'm going back into the ship tonight. I need to learn more about what the precursors left behind. I'm coming with you, Lisa said immediately. So am I, Greg added. If this is as important as you say, we should all understand what we're dealing with. Morrison shook his head. This is against every regulation in the book. If Admiral Sterling finds out we've been inside alien technology without authorization, then we'd better make sure she doesn't find out. Webb said that the four of them made their way to the ship as the colony's twin moons rose overhead. When Webb placed his hand on the hull, the symbols began to glow just as they had the night before. The entrance opened silently, revealing the blue-lit corridors within. Lisa gasped as they stepped inside. It's beautiful, she whispered. Like being inside a living organism. Greg ran his scanner along the walls, but the readings made no sense. The energy patterns are unlike anything I've ever seen. It's almost like the ship is alive. It is alive in a way, Webb said. The precursors didn't just build machines. They created partners. As they walked deeper into the ship, Webb felt the ancient consciousness reaching out to touch each of his companions' minds. Lisa stumbled and put her hand against the wall for support. I can feel it, she said with wonder. It's so old, but so lonely. Greg was staring at the symbols on the walls with new understanding. These aren't just decorations. They're a language. A way of storing information directly in the mind. Morrison remained suspicious, his hand never leaving his weapon. How do we know this thing isn't just telling us what we want to hear? How do we know it's really trying to help? Webb led them to the central chamber where he had first communicated with the ship. As they stepped onto the platform, the entire vessel responded to their presence. The walls around them became transparent, showing them a view of the stars beyond. But these weren't the stars visible from Kepler 442b. These were the stars as the precursors had seen them, marked with symbols showing which worlds held life, which civilizations were thriving, and which had fallen to the darkness that waited between galaxies. My God, Lisa breathed. There are so many of them, so many worlds with life. And so many that are gone, Greg added quietly, seeing the red. Symbols that marked dead worlds. The ship's consciousness touched Webb's mind more strongly now, sharing deeper memories. He saw the precursors themselves, beings of energy and thought who had long ago transcended the need for physical bodies. He felt their love for the younger species they had nurtured, and their sorrow at having to leave them behind. They didn't die, Webb said aloud. They evolved beyond physical existence. But they left their technology behind to help their children when the time came. Children? Morrison asked. All of us, Webb replied. Humans, Zephyrians, Valdari, all the species in the galaxy. We're all descended from life they seeded on countless worlds. Lisa stepped closer to Webb. What do they want you to do? Webb felt the ship's purpose flowing through his mind like water. To wake up their network. To prepare the galaxy for what's coming. To unite the different species so they can work together instead of fighting each other. And you're willing to do that? Greg asked. To give up being human? Webb looked at his friends, seeing them with eyes that were no longer entirely his own. He could sense their loyalty, their courage, their potential to become something greater than they had ever imagined. I don't think I'd be giving up being human, he said slowly. I think I'd be becoming more human than I ever was before. The precursors chose us because of what makes us special. Our ability to work together, to adapt, to care about others. Morrison finally relaxed his grip on his weapon. So what happens now? Webb felt the ship's consciousness merging more completely with his own. Outside, he could sense the approaching colonial fleet, Admiral Sterling's ships cutting through space toward their location. Now we have to decide whether to trust each other, Webb said. All of us. Because tomorrow, everything changes. Admiral Patricia Sterling stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Leviathan, watching the blue-green planet grow larger on the main screen. Behind her, 3 more military vessels followed in tight formation. She had been hunting pirates and rebels for 20 years, but this mission was different. This time, she was after something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the archaeological team," reported Lieutenant Commander Hayes, her communications officer. "Put it through." Sterling ordered. Webb's face appeared on the screen, and Sterling immediately noticed something strange about his eyes. They seemed brighter, more aware than in his personnel files. "Admiral Sterling," Webb said calmly, "I'm sure you have questions about our discovery." "I have orders, Dr. Webb," Sterling replied. "You're to cease all operations and turn over any alien artifacts to military authority." "I'm afraid I can't do that," Webb said. "What we found here is too important to be locked away in a military research facility." Sterling's expression hardened. "You don't have a choice in the matter, Doctor. Stand down immediately." Webb's image flickered slightly, and Sterling realized the transmission was being scrambled somehow. "The ship has been waiting for 10,000 years, Admiral. It chose to reveal itself now for a reason. There's something coming, something that threatens every living being in the galaxy." "What kind of threat?" Sterling asked, despite herself. "The kind that destroys entire star systems," Webb replied. "The kind that turns living worlds into empty space. The precursors built this ship to help us prepare for that threat." Sterling cut the transmission with an angry gesture. "Nonsense. He's been affected by alien technology. Maybe mind control, maybe worse." She turned to her tactical officer. "How?" "Long until we reach the planet. 18 hours, Admiral." "Too long," Sterling muttered. She had read the reports about alien influence on human minds. The longer Webb was exposed to whatever was down there, the more dangerous he would become. Far below on Kepler 442b, Webb was making his own preparations. The ship he now called Odyssey had been teaching him how to pilot it through direct mental connection. When he sat in the command chair, he could feel the vessel's systems as if they were part of his own body. "Are you sure about this?" Lisa asked, watching him work with the ship's controls. "Once we leave the planet, we'll be fugitives." "We're already fugitives," Webb replied. "The moment I bonded with the ship, Admiral Sterling marked us as enemies." Greg was monitoring communications from the approaching fleet. "They're not just sending military ships. I'm picking up signals from Zephyrian vessels and Valdari crystal ships. Word has gotten out about our discovery." Morrison checked his weapons for the 3rd time. "How many ships are we talking about?" "At least a dozen," Greg replied grimly. "Maybe more. Every major power in the galaxy wants this technology." Webb felt the Odyssey's consciousness touch his mind, sharing its concern. The ship had hoped to remain hidden until Webb was ready to accept his full role as its partner. But now they were forced to act before the bonding process was complete. "The ship can protect us," Webb said. "But I need to let it complete the changes it's making to my mind and body." "What kind of changes?" Lisa asked with worry. Webb looked at his hands and saw that his skin had a faint blue glow, similar to the light that ran through the ship's corridors. "I'm becoming something new. Part human, part something else. The ship is giving me the ability to understand and use precursor technology." "And the cost?" Morrison asked. "I don't know yet," Webb admitted, "but I can feel myself changing every hour. My thoughts are faster, my senses are sharper. I can feel the ship's emotions and memories mixing with my own." The Odyssey's system suddenly came alive around them. Warning lights flashed and a low alarm sounded through the corridors. "They're here," Greg announced, looking at his scanners. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Webb closed his eyes and let his consciousness merge with the ship's sensors. Through the Odyssey's awareness, he could see Admiral Sterling's fleet taking positions around the planet. But there were other ships too, alien vessels he didn't recognize. "Zephyrian hunter-killers," he said aloud. "And Valdari crystal ships. They're all here for us." Lisa moved to stand beside him. "What do we do?" Webb felt the ship's eagerness to fly, to show its true capabilities after thousands of years of waiting. But he also felt something else, a warning from the ship's deepest memories. Other precursor vessels were stirring throughout the galaxy, awakened by the Odyssey's activation. Some were already moving, seeking their own human partners. "We run," Webb said finally, "but not just to escape. We need to reach the other ships before they fall into the wrong hands." The Odyssey lifted off from the planet's surface without any visible effort. There were no engine flames, no roar of rockets. The ship simply rose into the sky as if gravity had no hold on it. On the Leviathan's bridge, Admiral Sterling watched in amazement as the alien vessel accelerated toward space. "All ships, intercept that craft. Use whatever force is necessary." The human ships opened fire with plasma cannons and missile batteries. The Zephyrian vessels launched their bioweapons, living projectiles that could eat through any known hull material. The Valdari ships fired beams of crystallized energy that could shatter asteroids. All of their attacks passed harmlessly through the Odyssey, as if it weren't there. "Impossible," Sterling breathed. "Nothing can phase shift that quickly." Inside the Odyssey, Webb felt the ship's amusement at the primitive weapons being used against it. The vessel existed in multiple dimensions at once, and simply stepped sideways through space-time to avoid the attacks. "They can't hurt us," Webb told his team. "But we can't hurt them either. The ship won't allow me to use its weapons against other intelligent beings, even if they're trying to kill us." Morrison asked. "Even then," Webb confirmed. "The precursors built their ships to protect life, not destroy it." The chase continued as the Odyssey accelerated toward the edge of the solar system. Behind them, more ships arrived every hour. The news of the alien technology had spread throughout the galaxy, and every species wanted to claim it for themselves. Webb began to understand the true scope of what was happening. The Odyssey wasn't just a ship, it was a key. Its awakening had sent signals to other precursor installations scattered across thousands of worlds. Ancient guardians that had slept for millennia were beginning to stir. "We have to reach the Centauri system," Webb said, his consciousness partially merged with the ship's navigation systems. "There's another ship there, buried beneath the ice. On Proxima Centauri B." "How do you know that?" Lisa asked. "The Odyssey is showing me," Webb replied. "There are dozens of ships, maybe hundreds. They're all waking up, and they're all looking for human partners." Greg's equipment detected new signals from across the galaxy. "I'm picking up transmissions from human colonies everywhere. People are reporting strange dreams, visions of ancient ships calling to them." Morrison looked troubled. "What happens if someone else reaches those ships first?" Webb felt a chill of fear from the Odyssey. "The ships will test them, just like this one tested me. But if they're not worthy, if they're driven by greed or hatred instead of the desire to protect others... "What?" Lisa pressed. "The ships will reject them," Webb said. "Violently. The precursors built safeguards into their technology to prevent it from being misused." As they approached the hyperspace jump point, Webb made a decision that surprised even himself. Instead of fleeing to the Centauri system, he ordered the Odyssey to send a message to every inhabited world in the galaxy. The message was simple but profound. It told the truth about the precursors, about the sleeping ships, and about the threat that was coming from beyond the galaxy. But most importantly, it explained that the ships would only bond with humans who truly wanted to protect life rather than dominate it. "You're giving away our advantage," Morrison protested. "No," Webb replied, feeling the ship's approval flowing through his mind. "I'm giving everyone a chance to choose their own destiny." The precursors believed in free will. Above all else, they won't force their help on anyone. The message reached every corner of human space within hours. On colony worlds and space stations, in military headquarters and research facilities, people heard Webb's words and had to decide what they believed. Some dismissed it as alien propaganda. Others saw it as humanity's greatest opportunity. But a few, scattered across dozens of worlds, felt something stirring in their minds and hearts. They began to dream of ancient ships and distant stars, of a purpose greater than anything they had ever imagined. Admiral Sterling watched Webb's ship disappear into hyperspace and realized that everything had changed. This wasn't just about one alien vessel anymore. This was about the future of human civilization. "Track that ship," she ordered, "and send word to Colonial Command. We're going to need every ship in the fleet." But deep in her heart, Sterling knew that military force wouldn't be enough to stop what Webb had started. The galaxy was about to discover what humans were really capable of when they had the tools to match their dreams. The Odyssey emerged from hyperspace near Proxima Centauri b, a frozen world that orbited the nearest star to Earth. Webb sat in the command chair, his mind fully connected to the ship's systems. The changes in his body were becoming more obvious. Now his skin glowed with the same blue light as the ship's corridors, and his eyes had taken on a silver color that seemed to reflect starlight. "There," he said, pointing to the ice-covered planet below. "The second ship is buried beneath the North Polar Cap." Lisa watched him with growing concern. Over the past week, Webb had become less human and more something else. He rarely ate or slept, spending most of his time merged with the ship's consciousness. When he did speak, his voice carried harmonics that made her bones vibrate. "Marcus," she said, using his first name to try to reach the man she remembered. "You're changing. Too fast. The ship is taking over your mind." Webb turned to look at her, and for a moment his expression was completely alien. Then something human flickered in his silver eyes. "I'm not being taken over," he said softly. "I'm becoming what I was always meant to be. But I'm still me, Lisa. I'm still the man who cares about you and wants to protect you." Greg was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. "The response to your message has been incredible. Humans on 47 different worlds are reporting contact with buried precursor ships. Some of the bonds are successful, but others ... "Others?" Morrison asked. 3 colonial governors tried to claim ships for military use," Greg continued. "The ships destroyed them and everyone within a mile radius." Webb nodded sadly. "The precursors built their technology to prevent its misuse. The ships can sense the true intentions of anyone who approaches them." As they descended toward the frozen planet, the Odyssey began transmitting signals into the ice. Deep beneath the polar cap, something answered. The planet's surface trembled as the second precursor ship began to wake up after 10,000 years of sleep. "Seismic activity across the northern hemisphere," Greg reported. "Something big is moving down there." The ice cracked and split as the buried ship rose to the surface. It was similar to the Odyssey but larger, its hull covered with different symbols that glowed with golden light instead of blue. "The Aurora," Webb said, speaking the ship's name as it entered his mind. "It's been waiting for someone to wake it up." Lisa felt a strange tingling in her mind, as if something was gently touching her thoughts. The feeling wasn't frightening, but it was definitely alien. "Is it trying to communicate with us?" she asked. "With you," Webb corrected. "The Aurora is looking for its own partner, someone to bond with and guide it." Lisa stepped back in alarm. "I'm not ready for that." "I don't Want to change like you have? The choice is yours, Webb said. But Lisa, I can sense your potential. The ship sees it too. You have the compassion and strength needed to be a precursor guardian. Before Lisa could respond, Greg's equipment began screaming warnings. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Admiral Sterling found us. Through the Odyssey's sensors, Webb could see the approaching fleet. Sterling had brought more ships this time, including several alien vessels that had joined the human fleet. The Zephyrian Collective and the Valdori Consortium had temporarily allied with the Colonial Authority to capture the precursor technology. They want both ships, Webb said. They're willing to work together to get them. Morrison checked his weapons, though he knew they would be useless against the approaching fleet. Can we outrun them again? We could, Webb replied. But running won't solve the real problem. He stood up from the command chair, and Lisa saw that his transformation was nearly complete. Webb still looked human, but there was something eternal about him now, as if he had existed for thousands of years. The precursors left me their memories, he said, all of them. I know why they built their ships, why they scattered them across the galaxy, and what they were preparing for. Through the ship's viewing ports, they could see the aurora floating beside them, its golden hull pulsing with inner light. The two ancient vessels were communicating with each other in ways that human technology couldn't detect. The galaxy moves in cycles, Webb continued. Every few million years, something comes from the dark space between galaxies. The precursors called them the Devourers. They consume entire star systems, turning matter into energy that they use to travel between galaxies. Greg's face went pale. How long do we have? The first scouts have already arrived at the galaxy's edge, Webb said. I can feel them through the precursor network. They're testing our defenses, learning about the current level of technology in the galaxy. Lisa felt the aurora's consciousness touching her mind again, more insistently this time. The ship was sharing images with her, showing her dead worlds and empty space where star systems used to exist. The precursors faced the Devourers before, Webb said. They survived by transcending physical existence, but they couldn't save their children races. This time, they've prepared something different. What? Morrison asked. Webb gestured to the two ships floating in space around them. A network of guardians. Ships and their human partners, working together to defend the galaxy. But the network needs time to fully activate, and the other galactic powers won't give us that time. Admiral Sterling's voice crackled over the communications. System, Dr. Webb, you're surrounded. Surrender the alien vessels immediately. Webb opened a channel to respond. Admiral, I know you think I'm under alien influence, but I need you to listen to me. There's something coming that will destroy everything we've built. I've heard enough of your alien propaganda, Sterling replied. You have 1 minute to surrender before we open fire. Webb felt the aurora reaching out to Lisa's mind again. The ship was offering her a choice, just as the Odyssey had offered him. But unlike his gradual transformation, the aurora was willing to show Lisa exactly what she would become. Lisa gasped as images flooded her mind. She saw herself as she could be, enhanced and changed, but still fundamentally human. She felt the ship's loneliness and its desperate need for a partner who could help it fulfill its purpose. I can feel it, she whispered. It's so alone. It's been waiting so long for someone to understand. The choice is yours, Webb said again, but decide quickly. Sterling won't wait much longer. Lisa looked at her friends, at the man Webb had become, and at the approaching fleet that wanted to use the ships as weapons. She thought about the Devourers waiting at the galaxy's edge and the millions of worlds that would need protection. If I do this, she said, will I still be me? You'll be more yourself than you ever were before, Webb promised. Lisa walked to the airlock that connected the Odyssey to the Aurora. As she stepped aboard the golden ship, She felt its consciousness welcoming her with joy that had been building for 10,000 years. The transformation was different for Lisa than it had been for Webb. Where his changes had been gradual, hers happened all at once. Golden light flowed through her body, rewriting her DNA and expanding her mind. But instead of losing her humanity, she felt it becoming stronger and clearer. When the light faded, Lisa stood in the Aurora's command chamber as its new pilot and partner. Her hair had turned golden, and her eyes now held the same eternal quality as Webb's. "I can see it all," she said in wonder. "The whole galaxy, every star system, every world with life. And I can feel the darkness coming toward us." Outside, Admiral Sterling's patience ran out. The human and alien ships opened fire on both precursor vessels. Once again, their weapons passed harmlessly through the ships as they phase-shifted through dimensions. But this time, Webb and Lisa didn't run. Instead, they did something that changed the course of galactic history. They opened a communication channel to every ship in the attacking fleet and shared the precursor's memories directly. With their crews, humans, Zephyrians, and Veldari suddenly found their minds filled with images of the Devourers. They saw worlds being consumed, civilizations ending in darkness, and the slow death of everything they cared about. Admiral Sterling staggered on her bridge as the visions hit her. She saw her home world, Earth, being devoured by creatures of living darkness. She felt the fear and desperation of the precursors as they watched their children die. "My God," she whispered, "it's real." Across the fleet, the same realization was dawning. The alien crews were seeing the truth about the threat that faced all life in the galaxy. Some still resisted, convinced that the visions were lies. But others began to understand. Webb's voice echoed in every mind throughout the fleet. "This is why the precursors left their ships behind. Not to conquer or control, but to give us the tools we need to survive what's coming." The Zephyrian ship commander, a being known as Swarm Leader Vex 9, was the first to respond. "If what you show us is true, then we have misjudged your intentions." "Everything I've shown you is true," Webb replied. "The question is whether we'll work together to face this threat, or fight each other while the galaxy burns." Lisa felt the Aurora's systems coming online around her. Through the ship's sensors, she could detect other precursor vessels awakening. Throughout the galaxy, some had found worthy human partners, while others remained dormant, waiting for the right person to claim them. "There are 18 ships active now," she reported. "But we need more. Many more." 6 months after the revelation at Proxima Centauri, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The Great Conference on the neutral world of Haven Station brought together representatives from every major civilization. Humans sat beside Zephyrians, Veldari crystal beings shared tables with gaseous ethereals, and dozens of smaller species added their voices to the growing alliance. Webb stood before the assembled delegates, no longer fully human but still carrying the essence of what made humanity special. His transformation was complete now, his body a perfect fusion of human biology and precursor technology. Beside him, Lisa represented the Aurora, her golden hair flowing like liquid light as she addressed the crowd. "The Devourer scouts have reached the outer rim," Webb announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. 3 star systems have already been consumed. We estimate we have less than 2 years before the main force arrives. A ripple of fear passed through the assembly. Admiral Sterling, now serving as humanity's primary military coordinator, stood to address the crowd. "The precursor network has grown to 47 active ships," she reported. "Each one partnered with a human pilot. But our analysis shows that won't be enough to stop what's coming." Swarm Leader Vex 9 spoke for the Zephyrian collective. "Our fleets stand ready to fight, but conventional weapons are useless against the Devourers. We need the protection that only precursor technology can provide. Webb felt the weight of 47 ship consciousnesses touching his mind through the growing network. Each precursor vessel was linked to the others, creating a web of shared knowledge and power that spanned the galaxy. But the network was incomplete, missing the final component that would allow it to protect entire star systems. "The precursors left us more than just ships," Webb said. "Hidden on thousands of worlds throughout the galaxy are transformation nodes, ancient devices that can change the fundamental nature of matter and energy. Resonance of ancient wisdom." Speaking for the Valdari Consortium, asked the question that everyone was thinking. What kind of transformation? Lisa stepped forward, her connection to the Aurora allowing her to access deeper layers of precursor memory. "The nodes can turn entire planets into fortress worlds. They can create energy shields around star systems. They can even enhance the biological capabilities of entire species." "At what cost?" demanded Chancellor Voidsong of the ethereal collective. Webb and Lisa exchanged glances. This was the moment they had been dreading, the choice that would define the future of galactic civilization. "The transformation is permanent," Webb said simply. "Any world that accepts precursor enhancement will be changed forever. Any species that undergoes the process will never be the same." The chamber erupted in heated discussion. Some delegates saw the enhancement as humanity's attempt to remake the galaxy in their image. Others argued that any change was better than extinction. Morrison, now serving as Webb's security chief despite his own gradual transformation, received an urgent message. He approached Webb with a grim expression. "The Devourers have accelerated their timeline," he reported quietly. "Long-range sensors are detecting the main force moving toward the galactic core. We have months, not years." Webb felt the news ripple through the precursor network. Every ship and pilot experienced a moment of shared dread. The enemy was coming faster than anyone had predicted. "We need to make a decision now," Webb announced to the assembly. "The precursors designed their network to offer protection, but only to those who willingly accept it. We cannot and will not force enhancement on anyone." Greg, now serving as the network's chief communications officer, stepped forward with data streaming directly from the precursor ships. "We've identified the key worlds where transformation nodes are located. Earth, Zephyr Prime, Valdari Central, and 37 others. If we can activate even half of them, we can create safe zones throughout the galaxy." "And the worlds that refuse enhancement?" asked a delegate from the frontier colonies. "They'll have to face the Devourers with conventional defenses," Lisa replied sadly. "The precursor network can offer some protection, but not enough to save unenhanced worlds." The debate continued for hours, but it was interrupted by alarms. Throughout Haven Station, the Devourers had arrived at the galaxy's edge earlier than expected. Long-range sensors showed massive entities moving between stars, consuming everything in their path. Webb felt the terror of the precursor ships as they detected their ancient enemies. The vessels had been built to fight the Devourers, but they remembered the last war and the billions who had died. "The vote must happen now," Webb declared. "Every world, every species, every individual must choose. Accept transformation and join the network or face the darkness alone." What happened next would be remembered as the great choice. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds and space stations, beings of every species gathered to make the most important decision in galactic history. On Earth, the vote was closer than anyone expected. Fear of alien influence fought against the terror of extinction. In the end, humanity chose transformation by a narrow margin, trusting in Webb and the other precursor pilots to guide them safely through the change. The Zephyrians, with their collective mind, made their decision in minutes. The entire species voted as one to accept enhancement, seeing it as the next step in their evolution. The Valdari took longer, their crystal consciousness requiring time to reach consensus. But as reports came in of Devourer scouts approaching their territory, they too chose transformation. Dozens of smaller species followed the lead of the major powers. But others, particularly some of the more isolated human colonies, rejected the offer. They would rather die as themselves than live as something else. Webb felt each choice like a physical blow. Every world that rejected transformation was a world he might not be able to save. But the precursors had built their technology around the principle of free will, and he would not violate that principle now. The transformation began simultaneously across 43 worlds. Ancient nodes buried deep beneath planetary surfaces came online for the first time in millions of years. Energy cascaded through planetary cores, rewriting the fundamental structures of matter and life. On Earth, people watched in wonder as their world began to change. The sky took on a subtle blue tint as energy shields formed in the upper atmosphere. Plants grew larger and stronger, infused with precursor enhancement. Humans found their senses sharper, their minds clearer, their bodies more resilient, but the most profound change was spiritual. Every enhanced being could feel their connection to the precursor network, a web of consciousness that linked all life across the galaxy. They were still individuals, still the same species they had always been. But now they were also part of something greater. The Devourers reached the first enhanced world 3 days after the transformation was complete. The planet Kepler 438b had accepted enhancement, despite its small population. When the Devourer entity attempted to consume the world's star, it encountered something it had never faced before. The enhanced planetary defenses didn't just resist the Devourer's attack, they fought back. Energy from the planet's core lashed out at the creature, forcing it to retreat to the edge of the system. Webb felt the victory through the network, but he also felt the Devourer's surprise and rage. The enemy had expected to find the same helpless civilizations it had consumed before. Instead, it had discovered that the galaxy's children had learned to defend themselves. The real war was just beginning. More Devourers were coming, creatures so vast they could swallow entire solar systems. But for the first time in millions of years, the galaxy was ready for them. Webb stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, now the flagship of a fleet that included both precursor ships and enhanced vessels from every species in the Alliance. Through the network, he could feel the presence of billions of enhanced beings, all linked together in common purpose. Lisa's voice reached him through the aurora. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Webb looked out at the stars, each one representing worlds that had chosen their own fate. Some would survive the coming darkness, others would not. But for the first time since finding the buried ship on Kepler 442b, he felt hope. "We gave everyone a choice," he replied. "That's all the precursors ever wanted, the right to choose our own destiny." In the distance, sensors detected the approach of the Devourer main force. The enhanced worlds were ready. The precursor network was complete, and humanity, no longer quite human but still carrying the best of what they had always been, stood ready to lead the galaxy in its greatest battle. The ancient craft had chosen well. In giving humans the power to transcend their limitations, the precursors had created guardians who would never forget what it meant to be mortal, vulnerable, and determined to protect those they loved. The galaxy would survive. And it would do. So because when faced with an impossible choice, humanity had chosen hope over fear, unity over division, and love over extinction,